Uchechi was not like other girls in Umokoro. From the time she was a little girl, she showed strength and courage beyond her years. While other girls played with dolls and learned how to cook, Uchechi would be found in the forest practicing with sticks and stones, pretending to be a warrior. She would watch the men of the village wrestle, studying their moves. Her father Ugochukwu saw the fire in her eyes but never stopped her. He knew his daughter was different and he loved her so much. As Uchechi grew older, she became stronger. She no longer watched the boys wrestle from afar. She began to challenge them. At first, they laughed at her, thinking it was a joke. But after Uchechi pinned one boy to the ground with ease, they began to fear her. Boys in the village no longer wanted to wrestle with Uchechi. They avoided her, afraid of being humiliated. News of Uchechi's strength spread throughout Umokoro. The villagers couldn't stop talking about the girl who could beat all the boys in wrestling. A woman should not be this strong. They whispered, "What kind of girl is she?" But Uchechi didn't care. She continued to challenge anyone who thought they could beat her, and she always won. One fateful day, a young man named Ekene, who had just returned from the neighboring village, heard of Uchechi's strength. He couldn't believe that a woman could beat all the men in Umokoro. "I will fight her," he declared. "She is just a woman after all." The village gathered at the wrestling grounds to watch the match between Uchechi and Ekene. But just like with the boys, Uchechi pinned Ekene to the ground within minutes. The crowd gasped in disbelief. After defeating Ekene, Uchechi's reputation grew even more. She became known as the strongest person in the village. The men in the village avoided her so much, not wanting to face the shame of being defeated by a woman. But Uchechi didn't care. She continued to train in the forest, preparing for the next challenger. One day, the chief's son Obinna returned from the city. He heard about Uchechi and her strength, but he did not believe the stories. "I will challenge her," he said confidently. "No woman can defeat me." The village gathered once again to watch the match. Obinna was tall and strong, but Uchechi was faster. With swift move, she threw him to the ground. The crowd was silent and Obinna was humiliated and stormed away. After defeating Obinna, no man in Umokoro dared to challenge Uchechi. The men feared her strength and skill. Some admired her, but many felt threatened. A woman should not have this kind of power, they said. It is unnatural. But Uchechi ignored their words. She continued to train, becoming stronger each day. As Uchechi grew stronger, she also became lonelier. The girls in the village did not understand her. They were more interested in marriage and family, while Uchechi only cared about fighting. The men too kept distance, afraid of her strength. Uchechi spent most of her time alone in the forest, practicing her moves and dreaming of the day when she would find a worthy opponent. One day, a stranger arrived in Umokoro. His name was Chike, and he was a traveler from a distant land. He heard stories of a powerful woman who could defeat any man, and he had come to see if the stories were true. When he arrived in the village, he immediately sought out for Uchechi. "I've heard about your strength," he said. "I would like to challenge you." The village gathered once again to watch the match between Uchechi and Chike. Chike was different from other men she had fought. He was calm and confident. The fight began, and for the first time, Uchechi struggled. Chike was fast and clever, and he seemed to anticipate her every move, and she pinned Chike to the ground. The village cheered as Uchechi stood victorious over Chike. But unlike other men she had defeated, Chike did not seem humiliated. Instead, he smiled and he stood up and dusted himself off. "You are truly strong," he said, "but strength is not everything. There is more to life than fighting." Uchechi was confused by his words, but she did not think much of them at all. After his defeat, Chike did not leave the village. He stayed in Umokoro, and over time, he became friends with Uchechi. He would watch her train in the forest, offering advice and wisdom. "You are strong, Uchechi, but strength alone will not give you happiness. You must learn balance." Despite Chike's advice, Uchechi began to feel restless. She had defeated every man in the village, and no one was willing to challenge her anymore. She felt like she had no purpose. "What is the point of my strength if there is no one to fight?" she wondered. Chike's words echoed in her mind, but she did not know how to find the balance he spoke of. The elders of the village became concerned about Uchechi. They had always been uncomfortable with her strength, and now they feared that she would bring trouble to the village. A woman with too much power is dangerous, they said. We must find a way to control her. The chief of the village, still embarrassed by his son's defeat, decided to take matters into his own hands. He called a meeting of the village elders to discuss what should be done about Uchechi. She is a threat to the balance of our village, he said. We must find a way to stop her. The chief decided that Uchechi would have to face one final challenge. If she could defeat the strongest warriors from the neighboring villages, she would be allowed to continue living as she pleased. Uchechi, confident in her abilities, agreed to the challenge. The first warrior to challenge Uchechi was a man named Eze from the village of Amibu. He was known for his great strength and had never been defeated in any battle. The village gathered to watch the fight, but Uchechi defeated Eze with ease, throwing him to the ground in a matter of minutes. The second warrior was a man named Nkem from the village of Omahia. He was known for his speed and ability to fight. The fight was more challenging than the first, but in the end, Uchechi's strength overpowered Nkem and she won the match. The final warrior was a strong man from a distant land. No one knew his name or where he had come from, but it was said that he had never been defeated in any battle before. When he arrived in Umokoro, the village was filled with excitement and fear. The warrior was unlike anyone Uchechi had ever faced. He was calm and silent, and his movements were fluid and graceful. The fight was intense, and for the first time Uchechi struggled to keep up. But just when it seemed like she might lose, she found a burst of strength and managed to pin him down. The villagers cheered as Uchechi felt victorious. But the mysterious warrior did not seem upset by his defeat. Instead, he smiled to Uchechi as if he had expected the outcome. "You are truly strong," he said, "but be careful. Strength can be a burden if not used wisely." After defeating the mysterious warrior, Uchechi began to feel a sense of unease. She had won every battle, but something was missing. She remembered Chike's words about balance and began to wonder if there was more to life than fighting. Uchechi sought out Chike for guidance. "I have defeated everyone, but something feels wrong," she confessed to Chike. He looked at her with understanding. "Strength without purpose leads to emptiness, Uchechi. You have proven your powers, but what have you gained? There is more to life than victory in battle. There is peace, there is wisdom, and there is love." Uchechi had never considered these things. She had always believed that power was the only way to earn respect. But Chike's words stirred something in her heart. Could there really be more to life than fighting, she said. The Uchechi had beaten every warrior, but they feared her more than ever. Her strength made the men of the village feel weak, and her independence challenged the traditions they held. "She is a danger to our custom," our elders said. "She is a woman, but she behaves like a man. If we do nothing about it, our daughters will follow in her footsteps." The chief, still embarrassed by his son's defeat, agreed. "We must do something before her influence spreads," he declared. As days turned into weeks, Uchechi found herself questioning everything. For years, she had believed that strength was her identity, but now she wasn't sure. She still trained every day, but her heart wasn't in it. She began to feel a strange of loneliness, one that fighting could not feel. Chike's words echoed in her mind, and she started wondering if it was time to stop fighting and search for something more. The chief, determined to rid the village of what he saw as threat to tradition, devised a plan. He called a secret meeting with the elders. "We will lure her into a final match," he said. "But this time, it will not be a fair fight. She must lose or our village will never return to order." The elders agreed, though some felt unease about deceiving Uchechi. They knew she had done no wrong, but fear of change clouded their judgment. Word soon reached Uchechi that a new challenge had been issued. This time, the fight would not be against a single warrior, but against 3 of the strongest men from the neighboring village. It was a test not just of strength, but of endurance. At first, Uchechi was hesitant. She felt her passion for fighting slipping away, but the fear of competition still burned inside her. Could she turn down such a challenge? Despite her growing doubts, Uchechi accepted the challenge. The entire village was excited. This fight would be the biggest event in Umokoro. Some villagers placed bets, while others whispered that this might be the day Uchechi finally meets her match. Chike, however, was worried. He says that something was off. Be careful, Uchechi, he warned her. The day of the fight arrived. The village square was packed with people from Umokoro and nearby villages. Uchechi stood tall, ready to face her opponents. The three warriors were powerful and well-trained, but Uchechi had defeated stronger men before. She felt confident, but something in the air felt wrong. As the fight began, Uchechi quickly realized that these men were not fighting fair. They had been trained to work together, targeting her weaknesses in ways no single fighter had done before. Uchechi fought back with all her strength. The battle was not fair. Uchechi struggled to keep up as the three men attacked from every angle. They used tricks and underhanded tactics, but Uchechi's strength and determination kept her in the fight. The crowd was on edge, watching in a horror as Uchechi fought like a lioness against her opponents. Despite their dirty tactics, Uchechi managed to overpower one of the men, throwing him to the ground. The crowd roared, but the two remaining warriors continued their fight. As Uchechi was about to defeat the second warrior, something unexpected happened. One of the men who had pretended to be down struck her from behind with a heavy object. Uchechi struggled, feeling dizzy. The blow had been strong and she struggled to stay on her feet. The crowd was amazed. Many realized that the fight was no longer fair, but no one dared to intervene. With the world spinning around her, Uchechi tried to regain her balance, but the two remaining warriors pressed their advantage. Attacking her relentlessly, she fought back with all her remaining strength, but the blow from behind had weakened her. For the first time in her life, Uchechi fell to the ground, unable to rise. The crowd fell silent, shocked by what they had witnessed. The chief watched from the side and he smiled. His plan had worked. Uchechi had been defeated, and the village would return to its old days, and the women would know their peace. But as the crowd despaired, Chike approached Uchechi, kneeling beside her. She fought bravely, he said. But this fight was never meant to be fair. Uchechi spent weeks recovering from her injuries. During that time, she reflected on everything that had happened. The fight had been unfair, but it had taught her an important lesson. Strength alone was not enough. She needed something more. Chike visited her often, offering words of comfort and wisdom to her. You were born with great strength, he told her, but now it is time to use the strength for something greater. As Uchechi recovered, she began to see the truth in Chike's ways. Fighting had given her respect, but it had also isolated her. Now she wanted more than just power. She wanted to find a way to help her village, to use her strength for good. With Chike's guidance, Uchechi decided to stop fighting in the arena and instead focus on protecting her people in other ways. When Uchechi announced that she would no longer fight, the village was shocked. Some were relieved, while others were disappointed. But Uchechi was at peace with her decision. She had fought for long enough. Now it was time to build something new. The elders, however, were still wary of her. They didn't trust her new direction and continued to see her as a threat. One evening, just as Uchechi was settling into her new life, the village was attacked by a group of bandits. They stormed through the village, stealing livestock and crops, and threatened the people. The men of Umokoro tried to fight back, but the bandits were too strong. For the first time, the villagers realized how much they needed Uchechi. Uchechi had the cries of her people and knew that she couldn't stand by while the village was under attack. Though she had sworn to give up fighting, she couldn't let her people suffer. With renewed determination, she grabbed her staff and ran to the village square. The bandits were caught off guard by Uchechi's strength and skill. Within minutes, she had driven them out of the village, saving the people of Umokoro. After the battle, the villagers gathered around Uchechi, praising her for her bravery. Even the men who had once feared her now looked at her with admiration. You saved us, they said. We were wrong to doubt you. For the first time, Uchechi felt truly accepted by her villagers. The elders, realizing they had been wronged about Uchechi, approached her with humility. We feared your strength, they admitted, But now we see that you are not a threat to our village. You are our protector. Uchechi accepted their apology, but she also knew that there was still much work to be done. With the respect of the village behind her, Uchechi took on a new role as a protector and leader. She trained the young men and women of the village, teaching them not only how to fight, but how to use their strengths wisely. Uchechi's new role as protector wasn't just about physical strength. She began organizing the youth, teaching them how to defend the village and also how to be wise in times of peace. She worked with both the men and women, something the village had never seen before. Slowly, the people's trust in her deepened. The men who had once mocked her for being too strong now sought for her wisdom. The young girls looked up to her, seeing in her a role model they could follow. One afternoon, as Uchechi trained a group of youths, Chike came by to watch. He noticed that Uchechi wasn't just teaching them to fight, but also teaching them patience, strategy, and humanity. Strength is only useful when tampered with wisdom, Uchechi explained to them. You must know when to fight and when to walk away. Chike smiled, proud of how much Uchechi had grown. You are no longer just the strongest person in the village, he said to her. Months passed peacefully, but one evening, people from neighboring villages arrived with news. The bandits who had attacked Umokoro before were planning to return, this time with greater numbers. The village council immediately turned to Uchechi for guidance. We cannot fight them alone, Uchechi said. We must unite with other villages if we are to stand a chance. The elders who had once resisted any change to their ways now listened carefully to her advice. Uchechi led the effort to unite the villages. She traveled to nearby communities, explaining the threat that loomed and urging them to work together. Her reputation as the strongest warrior in Umokoro, along with her new role as a wise leader, convinced many to join her. In weeks that followed, the village prepared for war. Uchechi trained not just the warriors but also the villagers on how to protect themselves if the bandits came. Everyone, both young and old, was involved in the preparations. The night before the bandits were expected to attack, Uchechi gathered the warriors from all the villages. She spoke to them, not just as the leader but as one of them. We fight not for glory or for victory, she said. We fight for our families, for our homes, and for our future. Let our strength be our bond, and let our wisdom guide us through the battle. The warriors, inspired by her words, felt ready. Though fear lingered in their hearts, Uchechi's presence gave them hope. The bandits arrived the next day. They were numerous, more than Uchechi had anticipated. But she stood tall, her staff in hand, and led the warrior into battle. The clash was strong. The bandits were ruthless. But Uchechi's warriors fought with a unity and strength that the bandits had not expected. For hours, the battle racked on, but they began to turn in favor of Uchechi's forces. Her strategy of uniting the villages and training them as one had worked. In the heat of battle, Uchechi found herself face to face with the leader of the bandits. He was a massive man, towering over her, but Uchechi was not intimidated. Their fight was intense, with neither giving an inch, but Uchechi's experience, combined with the wisdom, gave her the edge. With a final powerful blow, she brought him down. The bandits, seeing their leaders fall, began to retreat. The villagers let out a cry of victory, chasing the bandits away from the land. The victory over the bandits marked the beginning of a new era for Umokoro and the surrounding villages. For the first time, they had worked together for a common goal, and they had succeeded. Uchechi's role as a protector and leader was solidified. No longer was she just the woman who could defeat any man in the village. She was the one who had brought peace and unity to the land. The village celebrated her not only for her strength, but for her wisdom, her leadership, and her heart. As the years passed, Uchechi's legend grew. She continued to train the youth of Umokoro and the neighboring villages, passing on not just her skills in combat, but also her lessons in wisdom and unity. Uchechi never sought power or recognition, But in the end, she became more than just a warrior. She became a symbol of strength, justice, and wisdom, a legacy that would be remembered for generations to come. And so on, the story of Uchechi, the woman who fought every man in the village and brought peace to the land, became a tale told around the fires of Umokoro for many years. Her journey from warrior to leader would inspire others to find their own path, not just through strength, but through wisdom and love.